get our response. So you can never, in a civilizational battle, you can never blame the other side for doing this to us, doing that to us, because of course they will do that to us. How can we change them? We cannot change them. We have to improve our own game. So this is very important, and you cannot. Many of these meetings I go to consist of these kind of problems I'm listing for you. Then our scholars did not study the intellectual categories and frameworks of the other side. They have studied us. We think they're doing us a favor. When they are doing Purva Paksh on us, we are so grateful, thinking, "Arey bhai, I must be very important. They're doing, they're studying me." So I used to tell one guy, it's like, if CBI comes, you can say, they brought 10 people to study me. 10 people to study me. After they studied me for then they decided I'm important, and they brought 20 people. They're increasing the study of me. I am very special. So you see, we don't realize that when we are being studied, the power lies with the person who's doing the studying, the one with the drishti, the one whose siddhant is being applied on us. We are the data. They are the process. They control the process. They control the result. We are the data being fed. So it's not like we are like the microbe under the microscope. You're looking at something. That guy can feel very happy that I'm being watched. It's almost inferiority complex. We feel that as though it's doing us a favor. After 9/11, there was a big demand in the CIA for people who knew Urdu and Pashtun and Punjabi, because they wanted to intercept those language, those dialogue, and translate and all that. So suddenly on all the Indian TV channels, lot of ads. Of course, it didn't say CIA; they have front organizations. Lot of ads. If you are a speaker of these languages, lot of jobs for you. So Indian newspaper very proudly saying, Americans love our languages. Times of India articles that George Bush announces increase in funding for learning Hindi and Urdu and Pashtun, as if it's doing us a favor. So being studied by others is part of their Purva Paksh on us, to understand us, and we think we're very proud that this is happening, you see. So now, why I've talked to a lot of scholars. One of them says that the Arthashastra was our mechanism for training leaders in strategy and understanding the other. And the Arthashastra we stopped teaching. And only recently, in the last couple hundred years, 100, 150 years, an original copy of Arthashastra in Sanskrit was discovered. It had been missing. There was no copy of Arthashastra known for several centuries, which means it was not being taught. Why it was disappeared, who made it disappear, we don't know. But for some reason, the teaching of Arthashastra disappeared. So some scholars say that the reason for all this lack of Purva Paksha is because Arthashastra was the text where you study strategy about how to defeat others. Similarly, Panchatantra has been a traditional method for children through stories to learn, how to be clever, how to negotiate, how to talk back. And so these kind of methods of learning, along with Mahabharata, which I think is a very important strategic tool, these Arthashastra, Mahabharata, Panchatantra need to be reintroduced in our education system. We have a lot on other areas which are very nice and important, but these need to be introduced, so we are back in the skill of reversing our gaze and looking at others, understanding them, having reasonable confidence, suspicion, being able to figure it out. Now, if I look at the Western era to see what happened to the Kurukshetra, there are two phases. The first phase starts with Sir William Jones in the late 1700s. British, supposedly the first European Sanskrit scholar. He only spent 1 year or so, 2 years, and claimed to have mastered Sanskrit. He came to India and learned Sanskrit. He was judge of the British Supreme Court of India. The British set up a Supreme Court of India in Calcutta, and he was judge. So he had to make judgments, and he wanted to make it sound like he's judging using Hindu law. So he learned Sanskrit, he hired a bunch of people to explain to him, and he claimed to be the lawgiver of India. He claimed to be the person who gave the Hindus their laws. And the cover of the book, it is explained in the book actually. This is a very famous carving, Sir William Jones and the Pandits. It's in Oxford University. On a big wall inside a chapel, there is this carving, Sir William Jones sitting on a throne, writing down and dictating, and Pandit sitting on the floor taking his dictation. And it says that he gave the Hindus their laws. As if but what he had done is a distorted version of Manusmriti and various other smritis. He cut paste from here and there and claimed to be the lawgiver. So this starts a huge era of Indology, Sanskrit studies. He's also full of praise for Sanskrit. He loves it, it's a beautiful language. But he wants to fit all the Hindu texts, all the Sanskrit texts into biblical framework. So he's one of those guys who loves Sanskrit and the Sanskrit texts because he feels that they are part of the global biblical framework. So he wants to legitimize Christianity and has to make sure that the Hindus also fit somewhere within the Christian framework. And so he actually argues with it, so fit somewhere within the Christian framework. And so he actually argues with his fellow British people in support of Sanskrit and Hinduism as some kind of a subset of Christianity. So he does that. But certain things don't fit, like some deities can't fit, you can't fit the deities into the monotheism. So those he's very upset and he rejects them, and he says that some Brahmins have introduced this pollution later. But the original was very Christian type of stuff. This is his idea. So you can praise him. Some of our people are very happy with him because he says praiseworthy things. But when you go deep into it, it sets the foundation for distortion. And this starts the era of Indology. I have a whole separate book on the history of Indology. I don't go into that because that's not what this book is about. A whole separate book I've been writing for a long time, a history of Indology. So anyway, this era of of European Indology goes on for a long time. Max Muller comes, he starts the Aryan theory, all these kind of things happen. And then today, my book says that the European Orientalism is their construction of the Orient, construction of India and Asia as the Orient, their imagined idea of who we are. So my book says that the first Orientalism by Europe ended and a new Orientalism by America started. So now we live in the age of American Orientalism. And so my book is on who are these American Orientalists. It has never been studied before, because people in India who study post-colonial theory and all that, they look at the colonial era Orientalists. They don't look at American Orientalists because many of them are funded by the American Orientalists. Many of them are doing coolie work for American Orientalists. So they're not going to criticize or analyze their own paymasters. So I'm doing that, which is making American Orientalists very uncomfortable, which is why they're angry and fighting. But they're getting their Indian coolies to do the dirty work. So I call them sepoys because the sepoys were working for the British. These are the intellectual sepoys today, who are working for the new Orientalism. So this is my analysis. What we have is today, well, a product of the Orientalism started since William Jones was the Aryan theory, the Dravidian theory. So you can't say all this is just academic and does not make a difference. It makes a difference on our lives. They are the ones who created this. There was no concept of a Dravidian theory until before the British era. In thousands of years of Tamil texts and Vedic and Sanskrit texts and whatnot, there is no concept of this are Aryan, these are Dravidian. There's no concept like that. Not one text you can find where prior to the European era, people from within our culture, within our tradition, were problematizing this kind of a divisiveness. It didn't exist. And the caste idea is also a product of Indology, because we had Varna, we had Jati. But caste is a European construction. And collapsing a two-dimensional structure of Jatis and Varna into one linear caste structure is a product of Indology. So many products of Indology are like that. The whole idea of Nazism demonizing the swastik. In India, I'm very happy. We have swastik everywhere. We have no reason to apologize. No reason to apologize. And every time I get a chance to address Americans, I talk about swastik and try to correct their understanding, no matter how unpopular it is. My foundation was bringing American students, school students to India, Haridwar and so on, in the 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And so many of them were Jewish people. So when they came to India, I made it a point to point out that, look, behind that truck, he's got swastika. On that shop, he got swastika. This matchbox, swastika. To explain to them that for us it's a sacred symbol. And they started understanding. And when they went back to US, we had a big set of slide presentation by students to the school and the parents. And I told them you should talk about all this. It scandalized a lot of the teachers and parents that, oh, you know, this fellow is teaching them this horrible swastika. So, a few years later, Swami Dayanand Saraswati was having a Hindu-Jewish dialogue in Delhi, then in Jerusalem, then in London, then in New York. And so he asked me to be part of the Hindu team. And before the meeting with the Jewish side, we had our own meeting. And Swamiji asked every one of the Hindus, what should we present? So most of the people wanted to present things like, we're all one, we believe in one God and whatnot. I said, but it really doesn't mean anything. We should put on the table something strong that we want to educate them. So one of the things I wanted to present is, I wanted to present on what is swastika, why Hitler's swastika is not the real, not the swastika. We have a right to the swastika. And the argument I gave is that if some terror group appropriates the Statue of Liberty as their symbol, then Americans are not supposed to apologize. Why would Americans apologize? It is their symbol. Or if the Star of David, which is the Jewish symbol, were misappropriated by somebody, why would they apologize? They would not forget their Star of David. So most of the Hindus said, no, it's very dangerous. Swamiji said, no, you do it. You do it. So this first summit was in one of these big hotels in Delhi. So the Jewish side would speak, then the Hindu side would speak, then they would speak, then we would speak. So after all this, then Swamiji gave me the thing and said, now go, say it. So I knew exactly what he wants me to say. So I said it very straight. And this is in the proceedings. All my talk is in the proceedings of that summit. The Hindu side on one side, the Jewish side was sitting on the other side, of facing each other. The Hindu side were so scandalized. And some were looking like this, each other, some were trying to give me a hint, what are you saying? After the talk was over, the Jewish side were applauded. The chief rabbi, whose cabinet rank in Israel, said, this is a very important talk. We'd like to study more. Can we get more research done? So a joint team was set up of their scholars and our scholars for 1 year to come up with a joint paper to support what I had said. So you see, the thing is that sometimes our people are the ones who are scared. It's more difficult to get our people. Convincing the other side is easier. I've had many situations where I'm saying something, the Indian sitting there is all fighting me. Then I go quietly and get the Chinese on my side, the Japanese on my side. Yeah. I was chair of the New Jersey State has a Department of Education, similar to like our HRD. And so they set up an Asian Studies Commission. I was the chair. Asian studies, because Asia becoming very important. They should introduce in the school. It was all Western history only. So I was chair, and I said we should introduce all these important things about Asia, the Asian contributions, in all kind of fields. So when we were doing this working committee, the objections came from two leftist Indians. They said, no, but we should talk about Dalits. We are killing our women. I said, but when they teach Western history, they don't talk about slavery, they don't talk about genocide, because they're teaching young kids, they talk about pride of their heritage. So why should the Hindu sitting in class be feeling embarrassed that all kind of negative things about him? We should be able to talk about the great accomplishments of our civilization. So there was this issue. I had a private meeting in my house without these two fellows, and I invited, there was one lady from Thailand, one from Vietnam, there was a Japanese, there was Chinese, Philippines, and I told them that, do you guys agree with me or not? They all agreed. They said there's no problem. So I said, now next time we have a meeting, I'll keep quiet, you please present this point of view. So they are the ones who sold this idea, and then the two Indians resigned and left. So you see, this is a problem I'm facing all the time. Now, the result of this whole thing is that the rules of Indology, if you think of Indology as a system, as an industry or of research and knowledge production, it's like a game where one side makes the rules of what constitutes scholarship. They appoint the referees. All the journals controlled by the West, journals on Sanskrit studies, journals on India, Asian studies, the most prestigious journals are controlled from US or Europe. The most prestigious academic chairs are over there. The most prestigious place to get a PhD are to go overseas and get it. Most Sanskrit people tell me, if they had a choice, Indians, they would go to Oxford or Harvard or Columbia to get their PhD, rather than from India. So we have outsourced our own knowledge about ourselves to other people. So this is a very strange system we have. I call it loss of adhikar. We lost our adhikar foolishly. So every other major civilization controls its discourse. China, on the Mandarin language, it's in China. Confucian logic, Confucian thought, Taoism, history of China, it's all in their hands. They control the journals, they control the big conferences. Everybody in the world wants to go and be blessed by the Chinese. If the Chinese don't like you, they'll blacklist you, your career is finished. It's not that the Chinese have to go to Harvard to learn about China, it's the other way around. Similarly, French, you study French according to what the French want to say. Russia, they teach it in Russian, and the Russian history and all that is taught, controlled by the Russians. The study of Persian is in the Persian language, not in English. The study of Arabic is in Arabic. Only the study of Sanskrit is in English, including my book, including my talk. Because we are so colonized that to have a voice in the international discussion, we have to speak in the language they know, so we can at least get heard, because the control of this discussion belongs elsewhere. So what has happened is, the people who are insiders are not in control, the people who are outsiders are in control. Insiders versus outsiders is the theme of this book, and I want the insiders to talk back. So far what is happening is outsiders are in control. By insiders I mean those with Shraddha, those with sadhana, those who say it's my heritage, those who are invested, those who do bhakti, do yajna, do whatever things anybody does. They are the insiders. But they are not controlling this discourse as far as serious academic work is concerned, which is what educates the media. Most of these media stars that you see on TV, they have gone journalism degrees from places like Columbia and Oxford and so on. Most of these, Barkat Dutt went to Columbia, all these kind of people. So it's not just in academics, it's also in media. A lot of people, they send their kids, So the influence is there throughout Indian society of what the West is saying about us. The West are the knowledge producers about our civilization, and we are the consumers. We used to be the knowledge producers in places like Nalanda and Takshashila. We were the R&D and the knowledge producers, and everybody in the world would come and learn from us. Now is the other way around. We are the knowledge consumers. We are trying to import knowledge, even about Indology, import knowledge. So I've coined this phrase, Swadeshi Indology. Like right now we have Videshi Indology, and we should have Swadeshi Indology. In fact, what I suggested to Mohanji was that the topic of my talk was Swadeshi Indology. That is my topic of my talk for today. So the transfer of adhikar from insiders to outsiders is what troubles me a great deal. Now, I won't have time for going to the second part of the book, which is what are the specific problems, concrete examples, or the third part, which is what are the solutions. But I'm giving 7 talks in the next few days. Mohanji fit me every day, every hour. He says, okay, you can't have 1 hour idle, we'll put you over there. So give more talks, which is also in a way good because I can say more things. So it is like my 7 talks are like a lecture series. And those who can should attend other ones also, because I will say different things. Some similar things for people who are new, but then focus on different things. So before I start the Q&A, I want to close with one important anecdote, why I wrote this book, and that tells you in a summary the whole problem. Calling the shots, they've got all these sepoys they've trained and sent them here. I'm doing all this research on them, and here are my fellow Indians funding them with millions of dollars to become the caretakers of Adi Shankara's legacy in the West. It's almost like appointing your opponent as your ambassador. It's a stupid thing. It's a stupid thing to do. So I wrote saying, have you done Purva Paksha of these people? And of course they had not. They didn't even know what that means. So then I used their terminology, because they are investors in big millions of dollars of ventures. So I said, have you done due diligence? That is Purva Paksha. Have you done due diligence? And they kind of, why, they're nice people, we go and have lunch, they're very sweet, they talk to us nicely. I said, but you will never invest your money in a hotel or an airline or a factory because they're nice people. You will get due diligence done. And they understood that. Some of them are investment bankers. So I said, your investment bank advising a client to invest, the first thing they'll say is, we have to go and do due diligence, for which you'll charge a lot of money. Friendly guys, let's go invest. So in the same way, before you invest in selling out the heritage of Adi Shankara, you got to do due diligence on who are these people, what research they produced, what kind of, what are their ideologies, are you aligned with it, is it fair to Adi Shankara, is it unfair to Adi Shankara, will it be a distortion? You need to do that. And I'm in the business of doing that. I'm not charging you any money, but I need time. Give me time and I will produce a report. I wanted to do a quick 50-page, 100-page report, and as I got into it, it turned into a 500-page book. So this book is my Purva Paksha of the people who they were going to put in charge of Adi Shankara chairs. And these guys, instead of being grateful to me, got very angry at me. I'm spoiling their deal. I'm spoiling their deal. Because for them, getting this chair, putting money, getting this chair, getting Shankaracharya to bless it and all that, enhances their stature in New York as important people who are doing all these good things, you know, put their name as some on the chair some way, some committee and all that, and their kids can get to good schools maybe, or they can get business deals or whatever it is. I didn't like this, and I said, you know, I don't care if they hate me, if they are angry at me, I am going to fight. So I started writing emails and so on. And a lot of people protested, a lot of my supporters, they wrote letters to Shankaracharya and Sringeri Mutt saying, don't do this, don't do that. And they attacked me. Instead of the administrators, not Shankaracharya himself, the administrators get angry at me. So in the very beginning chapter is why I wrote this book. I'm describing the story. It's like a very intense drama. You read it and you will really be surprised at what went on and what I had to go through. So I decided I'll go visit Shankaracharya. Mohanji came along, one guy from Canada with me, one or two others. We had an appointment with Shankaracharya. We had to go bypass the chief administrator because he was on the side of the Americans. The main administrator, people wanted to do this deal. And they said they have Shankaracharya's blessings. And once he gives blessings, according to the rules, he cannot change his mind. So if the deal is done, you have no chance. But I wanted to hear it from him. And when I told this to Shankaracharya, it was clear to me he had not been briefed fully. Maybe they gave him some little bit of information. But all the things I'm telling, what I mentioned to him very quickly, the issues. I said, if you give the adhikar, it has to be given to people who would be qualified as teachers according to your own parampara, according to your own sampradaya. So if somebody in your mattha, in your pitham, in your university would be disqualified because of whatever reason, maybe his lifestyle, maybe his ideology, maybe he's not qualified, then why would you fund him just because he's a white guy sitting in a prestigious Ivy League? You should put the same criteria for representing you in the rest of the world as you would on a teacher right here in your own campus. And then if they can accept that, you do it. If they can't accept it, then you are compromising your integrity. And Shankaracharya was very clear that he didn't approve of those guys because he didn't say anything clearly. He said, I gave him some examples of their views. I read out some examples of what they're writing, scholarship in Western Indology. And Shankaracharya clearly said this is all distortion, they don't know. So I did not get either response that he'll support their chair or not support their chair. It's not in my position. Who am I to ask Shankaracharya to change his mind or to make up his mind one way or the other? I'm just a humble guy trying to provide him my insight on Purva Paksha of Western Indology. And my only request was, please wait until my report comes out and then you can decide whichever way you want. Because I can't really let him decide. And in any case, he would decide. So now the book is out. It has been 15 months, 18 months. When I was informed of that chair being set up, I was told that it is going to be signed and officially announced in a big event within 4 weeks. So obviously that didn't happen. Whether it has been killed or whether it has been delayed until my book comes out, I don't know. I hope they've changed their mind and they won't do it. If we have succeeded in stopping that from happening, I want you to know it will be the biggest accomplishment of my whole life.